It's race week, guys. Formula 1 is finally back this week, and the United States Grand Prix kicks off the final leg of the Formula 1 season. Now, F1 racing in America is something that is not new at all. There's been many United States Grand Prix, as well as other Grand Prix as well throughout the years. But I'm going to bring you 5 of the most unforgettable moments from Formula 1 in the United States over the years. Now, this does not just include the United States Grand Prix, it also includes other races as well, particularly those that have been discontinued since, and you'll see what I mean as I go through these. But let's go with the first one of these, and that is none other than the 1983 United States Grand Prix West, where John Watson and Niki Lauda created one of the biggest comebacks in Formula 1 history. McLaren were not really in the best of form, to say the least, during 1983, particularly at the start of the season like this. John Watson and Niki Lauda were their 2 drivers, but this was a team that was very much on the up in terms of race pace at least, because their cars, despite only just managing to qualify, they qualified 22nd and 23rd on the grid. If you're not inside the top 26, you miss out on the race. Their pace during the race was absolutely electric. They went from 22nd and 23rd on the grid to 1st and 2nd by the end of the race. Their Michelin tyres, just for some reason, worked perfectly around Long Beach. So it was a real race of attrition, as races often were back then. Only around 10 or so cars actually managing to finish the race. But John Watson set a record that is going to stand for potentially forever with the way Formula 1 is right now, because his 22nd to P1 drive is the lowest down victory in the history of Formula 1. And in fact, if his teammate Niki Lauda managed to win, that would have been an even bigger record than that. But as it was, Watson managed to win in that race. A real standout result from a very underrated driver in Formula 1 history, in my opinion. Next up, we head to Dallas for the only ever Dallas Grand Prix, 1984. Now, you might be wondering, Dallas? Dallas had a Grand Prix? Yes, Dallas, Texas had a Grand Prix, trying to capitalise on the kind of fame around that city, really, with the TV show that was named after the city as well. It was very much a very hip place during that time, but this race was an absolute disaster, to say the least. The circuit constantly broke up. It was running ridiculously hot conditions as well. It was unbearably hot for a lot of the drivers, and again, a real race of attrition. Only 7 cars actually managed to finish the race. Now, one of these cars that was classified in the points was none other than Nigel Mansell, but he didn't manage to finish the race. His gearbox gave up with a few laps to go. He did start on pole position and was in with a shot of getting the victory, but instead his gearbox finished up and he ended up trying to push his car over the line. Now, you might not know this race, but you'll probably know the image of Nigel Mansell passing out trying to get his car over the line, because back then you could push your car over the line to complete the race. But yeah, the heat was too much for him, even for an athlete as fit as him at that time, as Murray Walker said in the commentary. Thankfully, he was okay. I think he said that he ended up waking up in an ice bath much later on, and people were very concerned about him, but he was okay in the end. He managed to survive. But yeah, the only ever Dallas Grand Prix. No wonder we never went back there. A real disaster race for the United States at that time. The next one on the list that I've got here is Jean Alesi in 1990, the first of these moments actually to take place at United States Grand Prix. This was run at Phoenix, again another troubled track in Formula 1's history in the United States. But it was a great race, this one, and Jean Alesi in his Tyrrell managed to stick it to Ayrton Senna, the great Ayrton Senna in his McLaren. Of course, Senna went on to win the championship later that year in 1990, but this was a key result in it, really, because he managed to win despite being behind Alesi during part of the race. Alesi doing an incredible job in his Tyrrell during qualifying to get so far up the grid, and he led during the early stages of the race. Senna did pass Alesi, but Alesi just came back down the inside of him again and managed to hold his position. Senna managed to pass him the lap after, but the absolute goal, the minerals as it was for Jean Alesi to do that to a Formula 1 world champion so early on in his career, that is one of the reasons why I love Jean Alesi. What a driver he was, what a moment it was as well in Formula 1 history. A bit of a personal one for number 4 for me as well, and it's Kimi Räikkönen in 2018 managing to get what ended up being his final Formula 1 win. Now, I remember Räikkönen at this time, people were questioning whether he was still, whether he still had it, whether he was able to still win a race, would he ever win a race in Formula 1. This was just after as well that it was announced that Charles Leclerc was going to take his place at Ferrari for the following season. So Raikkonen was very much on a mission at this time, and he pulled off an incredible performance at the Circuit of the Americas to win his final Grand Prix. The biggest gap in terms of races between two victories in Formula 1, he beat Riccardo Patrese old record, although I believe that Patrese was a longer time gap, although correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And the final moment, unfortunately guys, you knew this one was coming, we have to talk about Tiregate. Now I'm probably going to do a full-length video going into the controversy around Tiregate, but this was basically the race that ended Formula 1's relationship with the United States for a very long time. We only ran a few more races at Indy after that, and we didn't race at all in the United States until the Circuit of the Americas was built in 2012, and this was why at the end of the day it was a very, very controversial race where only 6 cars ended up starting because basically the Michelin tyres were deemed to be unsafe for the racetrack. And yeah, all the runners on Michelin, which was the majority of the grid, they could not come to an agreement with the Bridgestone runners, i.e. Ferrari and a few others, as to whether, you know, put a chicane in, whether we do different tyres, whether we do mandatory pit stops every 12 laps. I think there was all sorts of things floated, but as it was, 16 of the cars on the grid, I think it was, ended up pulling into the pits and only 6 cars started, so it was a 1-2 finish for Ferrari, unsurprisingly, and one of the most controversial moments in Formula 1 history, without a doubt. A really, really black stain on the mark of Formula 1, and it ruined its relationship with the US for a very long time as well. So yeah, I have to highlight it's an unforgettable moment for the wrong reasons, and it's something you will not hear about on the official F1 channels. But on the F1 Chronicle, we're not scared away from that. We don't shy away from stuff like that. We just go straight for it at the end of the day. So yeah, look up Tiregate if you've never heard it before. If you think Formula 1's always been a squeaky clean business and it's always had a great relationship with the US, think again. Go look up that is a can of worms, and I'll probably do a Tiregate video as well in the build up to this race. So yeah, we'll see you very soon guys. What is your favourite moment in Formula 1 history in the United States? For me, it's got to be Alesi and Senna in 1990, but let us know yours in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell, and we'll see you very soon.